The grammarian today is going to be Lawrence. Could you please describe your role?
Okay, as grammarian, my job is to listen to what everybody says, try to help them to improve their grammar, and also to help them by noting when they do use filler words like and so on. And also to record how many times the word of the day has been used by anyone in the club. So, do you want me to give you the word of the day at this time?
Yes.
Okay, the word of the day today is jactitation. Jactitation. It means the act of boasting or a false boast or claim that tends to harm another. And in Old English, it was especially a false assertion that one is married to another. It comes from the medieval that means to toss about. So, it could be something like, great restlessness and jactitation set in while the renewal of the circulation in the extremities. Jactitation.
Okay, thank you. Our timer today is Mark, I believe. Mark, could you tell us what the timer does?
You're on mute.
First off, the timer's got to figure out how to use the mute button.
Right.
And the timer will measure how long each speaker speaks, and determining the kind of speech will determine how long the speaker is supposed to speak for.
Right. Thank you, Mark. I believe you're also our general evaluator today, is that right? Our first general evaluator?
Yes, I'm the general evaluator, so I will be evaluating the meeting overall, and I'll have some help in different areas to provide more detail on how the meeting went.
Okay. Do we have a second speech today?
Do we have a first one?
Right.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Both of our speakers have failed to show up, so I guess we need to come up with some new speakers.
Does anyone have a prepared speech?
A pocket speech?
Pocket speech.
I always have a pocket
You got
speech,
going
but
with-
does
you got
anyone
going with
else?
speech, a farewell speech? You leaving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the inaugural speech?
Right. I want to go by.
Okay, I can fake it.
Okay.
I'll
So-
go move your farewell on.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll put you in
Let me be number two.
Okay.
there.
I guess I'm number one.
Okay,
Great. Who's going to be our second evaluator?
that's what you want.
Oh, right. Oh, thanks, Whit. Can you describe what you do?
Huh?
I think it fits the speech evaluator basically goes over the speech that was given and gives suggestions for improvement. Usually you have a agenda, objectives or so forth, but if you don't have, if you're not speaking out of the manual, you just evaluate the speech based on the words used and how effective it was, et cetera, et cetera. Possibly give suggestions for improvement, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And our table topics master for this evening will be Julius. Julius, can you tell us what the table topics master does?
The purpose of the tabletop master is to provide members of the audience an opportunity to speak on impromptu topics for 1 to 2 minutes.
Right. Thank you. At this time, without further ado, if there's no more new business or old business, we will now go into our first speech, which is I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Icebreaker. Please welcome the Icebreaker.
Daniel.
Daniel.
I'm excited to be here. It's a especially comforting to know that Carlotta's here, who I've worked with on many, been to many meetings with. What I've learned from Toastmasters over the last 2 years is each and every time is a new opportunity to speak, and each time that I do speak, I realize there's times that I'm still uncomfortable. And I'm in a profession where if you show discomfort and lack of confidence, you get moved off to the side. And the profession I have is as an Army Reservist. I'm a colonel in the Army. And it's very important to demonstrate that authority with your rank and make sure that you balance your authority with your knowledge. When you've reached this level in your career for the Army, you're supposed to be the chief of your tribe. You're the guy everybody looks to. And what I found out is that to be looked at with confidence, you have to speak with confidence. And what I realized is that taking more and more opportunities to speak as an Army Reservist, even though that's part-time, I can do that more through Toastmasters in a friendly environment. I found over time I became more comfortable. In fact, when I was gone last year, I was gone for 9 months in Djibouti, which is a tiny country on the west coast of Africa, east coast of Africa. It's the Horn of Africa, tiny country, maybe the size of New Hampshire. But on that tiny country, in that tiny country, there are right at 3,000 soldiers and sailors, and we started a little Toastmasters group. And I was shocked to be in this class because as we struggled to gain members here in that group over there, even though it was very dynamic and there were no dues paid, people were rotating in and out every 30, 90 to 180 days. You'd have up to 20 people coming in to see the energy of these younger folks speak. It was very, very impressive. What I realized in the group that I was working with, we had people that had great professions outside of their military reserve background, but when they stood up in front of a crowd, they were diminishing their presence with the ums and the ahs. Some of that I shared with you tonight, being in a new group. What I decided to do was go back and help that group, which would help me, but also I had 5 people in my own group that I insisted that they go. And several of these folks back home were in sales jobs back in the States. One of my favorite soldiers, the guy that I relied on the most to be successful, we had him do a brief on a BTC, a video presentation, similar to what we see set up here with Mark on the other end, with probably 75 people in the meeting, 2-star general. It's a pretty big deal. But this guy, in the process of 5 minutes, probably dropped about 40 ums and unos. Every other. My goodness, I know I can help this guy. And I had him go to one of the meetings, and because of that, he came back home, and when he deployed back in Boston to his hometown, he joined a club. And what I tried to share with him is, with everything that you have going on for you, every time you get up and say, you know, and you're diminishing all this knowledge that you bring to the table, because it's a lot. And every time you hear it, it's like you're taking that cell away, because you're closing people. And every time that you know pops out, it's like, I'm not quite so sure. So what I found out for me is, even after 2 years of Toastmasters, I still fall in the habit of doing it. So with that, Carla encouraged me to pick up her role. I went to my first meeting last Saturday. And now I'm here today, and I'm asking you guys, that call to action Ted Mary always likes to talk about, is to let me help you in any way that I can, and I'm certainly going to need your help, because I have these little reports I have to fill out, and I can't do it without your help. But together we'll all get there, and we'll achieve all the goals that we look to enjoy over the next year. Red card,
Thank you, Daniel. All right. Well, our second speaker for tonight is it Carlotta or?
Carlotta.
Right, Miss Carlotta. Please welcome.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, good evening. It's always a pleasure to be here among you, to see you again. Each and every one. I always get Maurice's emails with the videos that he sends every week. That's very inspiring, as well as also encouraging to clubs members to let you actually see yourself in action, to let you know how well you did, and those points are places where you can improve. Today, I was in a meeting at Top Cat Toastmasters, where I'm a member, as well as Eastern Shore. I'm a member there as well in Daphne, where the training will be on Saturday. However, I was in a meeting today, and Ted Merritt, he mentioned Ted, gave us a speech about downsizing. So I want to make a few points about downsizing. Whenever you are speaking, there are 9 P's. Prior preparation prevents poor performance of the person putting on the presentation. You learn that in Art of Public Speaking. I'm an Art of Public Speaking instructor. There is important points where you need to be prepared so you won't embarrass yourself first. Toastmasters are the club that trains and to help us to improve, to go to the next level. You don't need to continue to stay at the same level all the time. With that being said, downsizing, I think of downsizing not as far as getting rid of furniture, getting rid of clothes, getting rid of shoes, all those things that you don't want. There are other types of downsizing. So what I had in mind when I walked up to the podium tonight was downsizing in your speech. Getting rid of those negatives that are there. The ums, the uhs, the so's, the ands, those filler words that make your speech so hard to hear on the hearer. You're talking and they are concentrating on what you're saying. You notice that all of the politicians, no matter who they are, where they are, they and ah themselves to death. And it takes away from the speech. To me, I always tell everyone they're trying to find some way to make that lie fit. So they'll say or ah to try to push it forward. In that realm, Toastmasters gives us a chance to do it in a positive manner because we're trying to improve ourselves. We're not trying to convince anyone of anything that we're trying to do. We're just trying to improve ourselves, improve your ability to speak, improve more than your ability to speak, your presentation skills as well. You need to learn how to appropriately use your hands, your eyes, your body language. Nelson Ortega last year went to the national because he was one of the winners of the regional competition here. He went to the national and he brought back with us some signs and things that will make your speech a lot stronger, like clapping your hands like this if you want to make a point, putting your hand over your heart if there is some feeling that you have, or let someone know the emotion that you are presenting to them, or give them an idea of how you must feel. Whenever we're speaking or whenever you're trying to speak to an audience, we need to give something personal about yourself, like Daniel did. He told us about his personal experience in the Army as a colonel and those things, that how he tried to help others when they're not speaking correctly. And also he did it in a positive manner. You want to try to help improve someone, not make them feel bad. There might be points that you can improve on, but let them have those points in a positive manner. We don't need to try to insult. That is not what Toastmasters is all about. It is about helping. You're giving a hand up and not a hand out. You're not doing anyone any favors by telling them you were so bad tonight, that was so terrible tonight. Your eye contact was not good. Give them a positive point. I see this, that if I had to find something I had to choose that you were negative on or that you need to improve in, then I will say this. It might not be that they were needing to improve in that, but you have to give them some kind of encouragement to let them know there's no perfect speakers anywhere. There's no one that's perfect. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but we continue to go forward, continue to try. No matter how many times I lecture, and I lecture for 4 to 6 hours every week, doing it at the university, but no matter how many times I lecture, you still can improve, no matter how much you speak. The more you speak, the better you are. The more confidence comes, and your eye contact is better. You need to pick up everyone in the room. An audience this small, you can always pick up everyone's eyes in the room, and you need to make that eye contact to give them that all-inclusive feeling that they are just as important as the next man that's sitting around you. With that being said, I have enjoyed being the area director for A42, Area 42 this year in District 77. It was a pleasure coming and meeting Lawrence and all of the members here. And I watched them improve and continue to fight to go forward no matter what. Members transition in and out all the time, but that's what Toastmasters is all about. So we have members in our club that's training, but they will be gone maybe in a year or maybe 2 years. This is at Eastern Shore. But we want them to be comfortable when they leave so they can improve themselves. Now you notice I said a few buts and ands and so's to make a point. I was aware that I was saying that. But I am glad to be here tonight. And I hope I see you once again. I'll come soon. As a candidate, Daniel is a very good person. He's strong, he's focused, and he'll be a lot of help to you. You can depend on him just like you could me. For anything that you call on me for, I was right there, and I will have helped you in any way I can. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carlotta. I think we all agree that that was a very constructive speech. At this time, we will now go into our table topics, to be given by Julius.
All right, good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. At this time, I'm going to call up different individuals to speak. And my first person to speak is going to be Woody. My question to you is, what is your biggest regret?
All right.
Wow, that's my biggest. That's tough. Okay.
I hit it right in the beginning.
What is my biggest regret? You know, to tell you the truth, I don't have any one single regret, but I think that as you go through life, there's probably a lot of little things you regret. You know, there's been times when I've been angry and said things that I shouldn't have said, you know, and I look back at that and I think, wow, I shouldn't have said that. You know, I remember years ago, I had an experience with my stepfather. He made me angry and I said something I shouldn't have said. I used the F word. I shouldn't have done that. A couple of years later, he died. And you know, I thought, well, gosh, I always regret saying that to him because he was a good person and we're very close. But you know, you can't take those things back. You know, when you say something out of anger, well, first of all, try to never say anything out of anger. If you ever get angry at somebody, always try to count to 10 before you open your mouth. But just saying things like that over time, speaking in anger at times when you shouldn't. And I know there's been several times in my life I've probably said things like that. And you look back years later and think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. You know, so just saying things out of anger from time to time. And as you get older, you realize you should never do that. It never pays off. It never. And I've actually been, you know, I try to never do this, but I remember one time this gentleman pulled out in front of me in an automobile. And I gave him a gesture you shouldn't do. And things like that, you know, I later on thought, you know, that could have escalated into something really bad. It almost did. And you look back and you think, you know, that was really stupid to act in anger and to do a gesture like that. That I shouldn't have done that. But you know, there's a lot of little things like that in life. You look, and probably everybody has, even you, Lawrence. has probably at times maybe said a thing or two, or you know, maybe you, your spouse even. Maybe there's something you may have said once or twice that you look back and you say, I really shouldn't have told my wife that those jeans make her butt look big. But you live and you learn. So there's a lot of little regrets I have about things that I probably shouldn't have said. But as you get older, you learn, and you learn to, you know, once the words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. So anyway, always count to 10. Never speak in anger.
Thank you, Woody. Woody said there's a lesson to be learned in regret. And good.
Yeah, but you need to leave those rings alone.
I'm not saying I actually said that. I've never said that. That's just an example.
Next, we'll have Heather speaking on, is it okay for men to cry?
Well,
Fellow Toastmasters, of course it's okay for men to cry. Why wouldn't it be okay for men to cry? I think in our society we don't really accept this idea that men cry or men have emotions. We don't really think about it, certainly not as much as women crying. But of course, everybody that is a human being is perfectly capable, and it's perfectly fine for them to cry, especially when they're going through something, or maybe they don't understand what's going on in their life, or maybe they've lost someone that's really close to them. And we need to understand what they may be going through, and we need to be considerate of them. And no one should really restrain this idea that only women cry, or only women have emotions and feel sadness and pain, because I think it's pretty clear that all of you, everyone in this room has cried, I mean, of course, and felt sadness at some point, and that's not something that should be shamed in any culture or society, but I'm sure it often is. It's pretty clear that it is, it's obvious, but I think that it's a perfectly acceptable thing for men to do, and I think that we could all agree that if each of us, and as well as society in general, had more of an understanding and acceptance toward them, then people could grow just as we're trying to grow, and not limit themselves to one thing. As Carlotta was talking about, we can grow and expand and reach new heights and allow ourselves to do things that we want to do to achieve our goals and everything. And that comes with being emotionally stable and accepting ourselves as well as accepting others. Mr. Thomas.
all right. That's good.
Now I won't feel the shame when I start crying. All right, thank you, that was good, Evan. Mark, this question is for you. The best thing about our nation is,
The best thing about our nation is that we all agree and we can disagree. There's so many countries where you're not allowed to disagree with the ruler or the majority. You can actually be killed if you disagree. So that's what's the greatest thing about the United States of America, is we have the right to disagree. We have the right to express our grievances against our own government. There is one exception, and I've mentioned this before. If you don't vote, then you cannot complain about the government that you get. So with that greatest thing comes great responsibility. So regardless of who you vote for, if you don't vote, you cannot complain. Thank you.
Did you get your timer?
I did.
Okay.
All right, Lauren, since you're standing, this question is for you. What was your most frightening experience?
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Mr. Topic Master. Actually, strange as it may seem, my most frightening experience was an experience that never really happened. When I was young, I had this, I don't know what you would call it, a habit, kind of having reoccurring dreams. And some of those dreams were like really wonderful, like I was flying. You know, I was able to fly. I would just jump off the ground and fly, or I could swim and breathe underwater, so I could do all these things. But there was one dream that I had, and I had this dream quite a few times, where I was doing something, and all of a sudden this very soft, very delicate, soft, almost like a fabric, you know, like the most gentle and soft fabric was just completely enveloping my body. And it was suffocating me. And it was just like totally surrounding me and just filling me with. And the thing was, not only did it happen when I woke up in the morning, if I stuck my hands in my pocket, it immediately, the softness of the fabric in my pocket would feel like it's going up my arm. And it was extremely, extremely frightening for, you know, a child of 10, 11 years old. This was like the scariest thing you could imagine, being engulfed by this really comfortable thing. So this was most definitely my most frightening experience, Mr. Toastmaster.
And you married her about 20 years later.
Wow.
That's right.
All right, sounds like you suffer from a little psychosis.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. But the psychiatrist said I passed the cookie test,
No doubt
and the
about it.
psychiatrist said I was okay.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Wow.
Okay. This
That's
question-
another story.
This question is for you, Maurice.
All right.
Females make the best bosses.
Uh-huh.
Smart glass, towards yellow, red, green.
Females make the best bosses.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guest, the question is, do females make the best bosses? In my experience, I did have a female boss. As a matter of fact, it was her company, and it was an engineering company in New Orleans years back. And with that experience, I saw that she had good leadership skills and good technical skills in the field of engineering. And I saw her active in the community on top of that in different types of functions. So, with that, I would say that females do have good leadership skills and make good bosses. So, in general, anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it. If you want to be a good leader, you just put the work in to become a good leader. If you want to be good at anything technical, you just put into work to improve the skills in those fields. Topic master.
Okay.
All right.
Guests like to participate?
Now you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the question.
Okay, great. Well, this question is for Danny.
All right.
Danny, where would you choose to live if you had to leave this country? Where would you choose to live if you had to leave this country? You just committed a murder, you need to get out of here.
If I go with the last phrase, I would go to Switzerland.
Okay.
But I would choose the border between France and Switzerland because I like to study French. I've studied it now for the last 6 years, and I still struggle with it, but I've learned so much that I discovered that if I were to go somewhere, it would be somewhere where I could exercise and grow in this knowledge of this second language that I'm trying to acquire. Now, once I get to Switzerland, I understand there are several beautiful cities, Geneva, that I've recently read about. My son was there a couple of years ago, and he said it was amazingly expensive. So if I do get to go to one of those countries and I'm on the lam, I hope that I have the funds to enjoy my stay and learn more French.
It's one of the 3 national languages in Switzerland, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah. English, French, and German.
Carlotta, last question, real simple. What makes you happy?
Fellow Toastmasters, what makes me happy? I can say many things make me happy, but the top 3, I will talk about those. First, the fact that I'm a Christian and I serve God, and I have salvation. That's number 1. Number 2, I have a wonderful family, love in your life. That's always a good place to be in, no matter what age, time in your life, or where you are. Love is very important. And the third thing that makes me happy is writing and teaching. I love both. I love writing. I have books out. I'm writing a current romance novel. It's hot and heavy. You got to read it. I will have it out in a few months. And teaching at the university. That was my dream when I was 5 years old. I wanted to teach at the university. So I have accomplished all of those things. So what else is there in life? Do beside go ahead and live.
Great, thank you. This concludes the tabletop portion of the meeting. We'll return directly to the Toastmasters.
Sorry. Okay, thanks Julius. Those were some great table topics. At this time, we will now go into our evaluation period. And our first general evaluator is Mark, evaluating Carlotta, right?
The general
Daniel,
evaluator.
right?
Just introduce the general evaluator.
Right. Mark.
All right. And I didn't write down who was evaluating which speech. I think,
I'll do
Woody?
Daniel.
whose speech are you evaluating?
He's going to be evaluating Carlotta.
Yeah.
Maurice is going to be evaluating Daniel.
Okay. Then let's get started. Maurice evaluating Danny's icebreaker. Maurice?
All right.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guest, this is the evaluation of Daniel's speech. And understanding that was impromptu, I'll do the best I can to go through this icebreaker, these questions in the icebreaker. It says, what strong points does the speaker already have? He does have a strong voice, a good vocabulary, and he has the ability to put his memory into a speech, going as an impromptu speech. How well did the audience get to know the speaker? The people here at Hilltoppers Toastmasters got to know him very well because he is a colonel in the reserve. He's been to different countries. He's been to different Toastmasters functions, whether it's the United States or abroad. And now that he's the area director or the Toastmaster General, that's just a yes. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? Well, considering the situation that we put him in, yes. Did the speaker talk clearly and audibly? Yes. Did the speaker have a definite opening, body, conclusion? Yes. And of course he didn't have notes because he came here not expecting to give a speech, but he did very well. So that is the evaluation of Daniel's speech.
All right.
So I'd like to ask Woody to come up
Okay.
to the lectern and evaluate Carlotta's.
Okay, I'll just bring it. Okay. Okay, Carlotta's speech, fantastic. That's one of the best speeches I've heard in a long time. You're obviously an experienced speaker. You have great body language, good hand gestures, great eye contact. You look at everyone in the room, I noticed that. You're a public speaking instructor, and you remind me back when I was in South Alabama, and I got up to give my first speech in public speaking class, and I was terrible. But the instructor told me, he made me go back up to the front of the room, and he said, now what I want you to do is I want you to just look at everyone in the room and just look them in the eye. And that, for some reason, you know, because my speech is so terrible, I guess he felt like that would build my confidence, and it did. And the other thing that he taught me was that whenever you give a speech, don't try to memorize a speech word for word, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Always try to be conversational in your speech, because if you try to memorize a speech word for word and you lose a sentence, the whole thing is gone. But anyway, outstanding speech. You're obviously you're a motivational speaker to me. I mean, I could listen to you for a long time. I mean, you're fantastic. And then one of the other points you made was, in Toastmasters, there's a lot of different levels of speakers. We've heard people who are just fantastic, and there's people who are, you know, working on becoming the best that they can be. And it's always a good idea that when you evaluate someone, you always bring out the positive. You know, you always want people to feel good about their speech, even if it's maybe not the best speech. You always want to tell them what they did right, and I think that's 100% accurate. You know, we've had people come to Toastmasters who were, first time, a couple of times they got up here, they just, you know, they were very nervous, maybe didn't give such a good speech, but then they grew and they grew and they grew and they grew. And I've seen people go from doing very well to being outstanding speakers, and that's enjoyable for all of us to see, because, you know, people like Lawrence have been doing this for a long time. You know, you're actually helping people, you know, that's a good thing. But anyway, that was just a fantastic speech, and your also your advice about, you know, like if you really feel something, put your hand over your heart, or what, you know, that type of thing. That's very meaningful, very great suggestions. One of the best speeches I've heard in a long time, and you're definitely a motivational speaker, which is to me pretty much at the highest level. So outstanding.
Thank you.
No doubt about it. General evaluator.
Thank you, Woody.
Okay. Sit down.
And I hope that it's not a accusation that we've been perfect in our grammar during this meeting. And so I'd like to ask Lawrence, is it objective to make him make that statement?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. You are the only one so far tonight to actually use our word of the day, jactitation. So I'm glad of that. Now, unfortunately, there were a few grammar issues. I personally don't know English grammar all that well, so I can't go through and tell you if you use words in the right place and such, but I can tell you if you did things like double wording, where you do stuff like that, like say the same word twice. Those kind of things are bothersome when you're listening to someone speak. And actually, Daniel, you had, I only heard one or ah, but you did have, I think, 1 or 2 times that you did double wording. But you did a very good at speaking, and I thought you did a good job. I tried very hard, but I couldn't find anything that Carlotta did wrong. Again, I'm not a grammar person, but I think she did very well. And also Julius, I didn't hear anything there. Woody, you have picked up a bad habit, I think, and that is the you knows. We don't know. That's why you're telling us. But you used you know quite a few times. I stopped counting
Well, I was
at
talking
5.
about being nice to people. Always.
But we know that you know, so we're all good with that. But you know, otherwise your speech was very good. You did present yourself very well when you talked. It was just the you knows. Unfortunately, the grammarian has a hard time telling people good things. Heather, you also used a double wording once or twice. And I think that you were using and as a filler word once or twice. Otherwise, you did very well. I'm actually very impressed with what you've done tonight for the first time as Toastmaster. I'm very happy about that. Maurice also had one situation where you did double wording. And as for me, I didn't pay attention to what I was saying, but I'm sure that I used a lot of ums and ahs and other things that I shouldn't do, because I've figured out that I have regressed as far as ums and ahs are concerned. I started using them a lot more in the last year than I had previous to that, and I'm not sure why that is, but I'm sure I had a lot of those. So that is my evaluation of our grammar for this evening. Mr. Evaluator.
All right.
Our timer tonight is Mark DeVoe. So I will give the timers report. Danny gave an icebreaker, which is 4 to 6 minutes. He spoke for 4 minutes, 4 seconds. Right on the money. Carlotta gave I'm assuming it was a 5 to 7 minute speech. She spoke for 6 minutes, 22 seconds. Maurice's evaluation was 1 minute and 56 seconds. Woody's evaluation was 2 minutes and 53 seconds. For table topics, and this is not the order that they gave the speeches in, Lawrence spoke for 2 minutes exactly. Maurice spoke for 1 minute, 27 seconds. Woody spoke for 2 minutes, 46 seconds. Heather spoke for 1 minute, 59 seconds. Carlotta spoke for 1 minute, 5 seconds. Daniel spoke for 49 seconds. And I spoke for 1 minute, 13 seconds. That concludes our timers report.
All right.
As far as the overall meeting, I think this was a very good meeting. And Heather, I want to thank you for stepping up and being the Toastmaster tonight. You didn't do one of my pet peeves, and that is to make excuses that this is your first time. Like Lawrence said, you did very well. And at Toastmasters, the way to get better is just to get up and do it. So I want to encourage you to be Toastmaster again. If you volunteer to be Toastmaster, Lawrence will definitely schedule you to be Toastmaster at a future meeting.
Thank you.
I also want to thank the guests for stepping up. It's unusual that we have both speakers cancel and we have guests that are willing to step up and give speeches. So thank you, both of you, for giving speeches tonight. So overall, I think we had a very good meeting. I will turn control of the meeting back to our Toastmaster, Heather.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, we will now go into our educational overview to be given by Lawrence.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Actually, this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about speechcraft. this club, somehow, for the last, what, maybe 2 years or so, we've been trying to somehow work up a speechcraft program. We already have the books and everything. All we need to do is actually make it happen. And somehow it just kind of never really gets off the ball. So I want to give just a quick talk about what is a speechcraft and how it can be of help to our members and, of course, anybody who comes and joins it. As we all know, oral communication is a part of our daily life. So you're speaking with people all the time. And as was mentioned, we're closing with people all the time. Because everything we're doing is a little bit of sales, right? You're selling yourself to people all the time, every day, all day long, whether you're actually selling yourself as just someone who wants to have companionship or more. Okay, so speaking is a very valuable thing. Now, once you get to a point where you have to speak to large numbers of people, even 2 or 3 large numbers of people, or I should say 2 or 3 people is a large numbers of people to some of us, then it becomes a little bit more difficult, because in a lot of studies, people would rather go running through a field, through a whole stadium naked than to get up in front of people and speak. So that is the way people feel about it, and so Toastmasters can help them. So Speechcraft is a program designed to help the students to develop public speaking skills. They learn the skills during 4, 6, or 8 meetings, whichever we decide to do, and that is going to be coordinated by our club. Okay, during the meetings, the people will learn and be able to practice speaking and evaluation skills. They will have the opportunity to learn from experience and from experienced speakers, which is us. Whether we believe it or not, even just after 2 or 3 meetings, we have become experienced speakers. Okay, so they will learn and practice in a friendly, non-threatening environment where hopefully they're going to get positive reinforcement for their speaking, and also learn how to overcome some of the problems that we have, the ums and the ahs and the double wordings and all the other things that we sometimes deal with. So they will be learning from other people, and not just from the other speakers, the people who are facilitating the meeting, but they will also be learning from each other and seeing where other people have improved over that 6 or 8 or 4, 6 or 8 meetings that they get together. So the progress of any one person in that group is a progression for everybody. So that's kind of why we would want to bring people from the community into our group. Now, from my personal way of thinking, the other great advantage of having a speechcraft in our club will be the fact of how much we, as members of Toastmasters, would be able to grow by having a classroom environment where we're actually helping people work together to become better as a group. Also, I think that the secondary benefit would be the fact that we might be able to bring a little bit more dynamic into our group, because we do seem to this club seems to fluctuate. It gets up and then it comes kind of down again, and we're starting on another downturn. So we have to catch that quickly and stop it from moving down. So I think that we need to create more dynamic in our group, and I think this Speechcraft would be a very good way to revitalize our joy that we experience in Toastmasters. So, Madam Toastmaster.
All right.
All right, thanks, Lawrence. At this time, I will now call forward our president.
Take 7. Okay, we have less than 6 minutes left. Are there any other business or any issues? If not, we'll, oh, do you have something, Lawrence?
Well, yes, I do have something. There we go again. The next meeting, I don't have much of anything other than those who have decided to be speakers. We have Woody, that did you volunteer to be a speaker? I've got you down for next. And I think that between Mark and I, we somehow came up with that. I wasn't sure if you volunteered.
I didn't really volunteer,
But you're willing to be a speaker next week?
If I can get something together by then, I'll give it a shot.
Okay, and then we have Lois, but Lois has not been coming in a while, so I don't know what her situation is. But other than that, I do not have anyone. Maurice, you are the reserve speaker for next week. And all the other positions I'm going to have to come up with over the course of this week. There's been a couple of people who have already declined next week's meeting. So please, this week we had only 2 people who got onto Easy Speak and let us know what they were doing. So please get on there and say, yes, I'm coming, no, I'm not coming, or maybe I'm coming, whatever the case may be, and so that we can know more of what's going on. I would deeply appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, or Mr. President.
If nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
I saw that you even went so far as to print up some, get that.